Hey, this is Rob Moore, award-winning author, leadership expert, and founder of therobmoore.com, and I want to welcome you back to my Words of Wisdom series. This is episode number 10, and if you don't already know, I help people show up, step out, and shine so they can perform better and become leaders who shine. So if that's you, you're definitely in the right place. And what I want to talk about today is reading daily. But before I get into that, I want to go back a few years, quite a few years to, when I was first starting out in school, not kindergarten, because I don't think they teach you to read in kindergarten. I believe it was like first grade. And I remember when I was first learning to read. And from that point in my life, all the way up until like mid 11th grade, I absolutely hated to read with a passion. It seemed like as I kept going up in grades, the more I actually hated to read. And that was a big mistake. You see, it wasn't that I hated to read. It was that the material that I was given during all of those years was of absolutely no interest to me. So it wasn't that I hated to read. It's just that I hated to read the material that I was given to read. And since I hated reading it so much because it was so boring and it was of no interest to me, I actually associated that to just not liking to read, which was a big mistake in my life. So how was it that I was still able to graduate from high school? Well, what I used to do was I used to rely heavily on the lectures, taking real thorough notes, and really listen to the conversations and the discussions that were happening in class, and also a big part of that was when we were assigned chapter upon chapter upon chapter upon chapter to read at home. I would never read those chapters. Man, never, ever. I wouldn't read them at all. What I would flip to the end of the chapter and I would read the summaries. And then I would read the questions that I had to answer based on the chapter, and I would just go back through the chapter to find the answers. And between summaries, questions, finding the answers, listening to the lectures, listening to the discussions, listening to what the other students in the class said, I was able to do very well, in every one of my classes. And I was obviously able to go on and graduate from high school. And the reason I say like mid 11th grade was when I hated this to read was because I was in 11th grade and I had an English teacher by the name of Miss Jackson. And she was a great teacher, really loved her, loved her teaching style and everything. And she gave us all these books, to start reading throughout the year. And we were to read a certain amount and we would have these discussions and like everybody had to participate. So I was like forced to have to read. There was no other way around it. And as I started to read these books, she gave us books that were very, very interesting, like to the point where I can't remember any of the names of the books, but I do remember they were very interesting. And as you would start to read them, it's like, man, this is really cool. This is really interesting. I want to know what happens. And it got to the point where you want to know what's going to happen in the story before we would even get to the discussions in class. So then I started to get a little bit hooked on reading, but in the aspect of just doing it for fun. And then after I graduated from high school, I got into, the supermarket industry. I had a very, very successful career. I did a whole video where I talk about my background. I believe I call it the Rob Moore story. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out. All you have to do is put in the Rob Moore story and you can listen to my whole background on how I was able to accelerate my career very quickly through this retail company. And once I got around, the co-manager, assistant store manager level, I was introduced to a business that was called network marketing. And once I got involved in this company, one of their number one things that they wanted you to do was they wanted you to always be reading a book, like every day. And these books that they gave us to read, and I still remember the first book that I was given to this day, which was The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. And I started to read that book, and I was like, holy smokes, because I was reading all this stuff about how to become a better person and personal development and self-development and how to be the best that you possibly can be and how to become a leader. And I was just like, I never knew that this information even existed. And it was mandatory that you read these books because they were teaching us to develop a very strong mindset. So every month we were always given a book to read. And from that point on, I have never stopped from that day. I now love to read, and I started to love to read from the first time that I picked up that book, because the reason why I decided to change my whole mindset about reading was they just like, listen, this is network marketing. If you want to be successful in network marketing, these are the things that you have to do. And this is the number one thing that you have to do, which is more important than anything else, because without this one thing, nothing else is going to work. So I started to read these books, and I was like, listen, if I want to be successful in that industry, if I want to be able to do this type of business, I want to be successful, so I'm going to do what I'm told. So that gave me the drive to change my mindset to read. But once I dived into it and saw the abundance of great information of people who were extremely successful, who already paved the way and done wonderful things in the world, I was just like, my eyes were widened. They were just wide open. And I have never, ever really stopped reading from that point. Now, don't get me wrong, you know, there's some days here and there that I don't read, but for the most part, I read every day. I love to read. I love it. I love biographies. I love this learning about how to become better. So this is why I'm telling you the story, because most people that I talk to don't read. Most people don't even read another book, even a magazine, after they graduate from high school. And that is a major mistake. It's a major mistake. Everything that you will ever want to learn in your entire life has already been written in a book somewhere. And there are so many books out there, it's not even funny. There's just an abundance of information. Anything that you want to learn to do, somebody wrote a book about it. Period. If you want to become successful, there's hundreds of thousands of books on success. If you want to learn to fix a car, there's hundreds and thousands of books on how to do that. If you want to become a better leader, there are hundreds of thousands of books out there on how to do that. But I have also learned that a lot of these books are based on theory. So you got to be very, very careful who you listen to, and you got to be very, very careful what books you decide to read. That's the only thing that I will say. So when you read a book, just make sure that that person that you're reading a book about is somebody that has already done extraordinary things in their lives, so that you're really learning based on their experience versus learning based on something they think you should do in order to get where they think you want to go. Make sense? I hope it does. So today's words of wisdom is get in the habit of reading daily. Read something positive, something that's going to make you better. Let me give you a couple of the books that I read constantly. You know, I'm not going to give you a lot. I'll just give you a couple. But I would just say, like, the number one book that is a must read is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. That is a must read. Everybody in this world, everybody on this planet should read that book. That is one of the best books on success. Now, most people look at that book, Think and Grow Rich, and they think it's all about money. It's all about getting rich. Yes, it does teach you how to do that. But it teaches you the stuff behind the stuff that most people don't know in order to get whatever you want to get in your life. So that's a highly recommended book. So I don't care, you know, what you want to do in your life. I don't care what it is. I don't care if it has absolutely nothing to do with money. if you want to become a better person, if you want to achieve certain things in your life, that is a must read. Think and Grow Rich, #1 book I believe that you should read. Another great book that I say is a must read for everybody. And a couple of celebrities that I have heard of have read this book. Tyrese Gibson has Tyrese Gibson has listened. What do you mean listened? He has read this book. Will Smith has read this book. You know, the book is As a Man Thinketh. Must read. As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. Phenomenal book. Phenomenal book. Must read. It's all about mindset. It's all about whatever you think in your heart, you are. And not only that, by doing that, you attract the things that you need in order to get the things that you want in life. But that book goes into a lot more detail on exactly how all that stuff works and how to do it. And it's a very quick read also. And let me just back up real quick to Think and Grow Rich. There are several different versions of Think and Grow Rich out there. Make sure you get the 1913 version of that book. All right? Because Napoleon Hill, the first book that he put out was called The Law of Success in 16 Lessons. It comes in 2 volumes. Both of them are about this thick each. So the book really is like this thick. And that book has everything in it that you need to learn about success. Everything that you need to know from some of the most successful people in the world. And the people that were in very powerful positions back then were so scared by the amount of information that they put out, that Napoleon Hill put out, they actually took that book off the market because they didn't want the whole world to know these secrets that they used in order to create so much success and wealth in their life. So they took that book, Law of Success in 16 Lessons, which by Napoleon Hill, I highly recommend you read that one too. They pulled that off the market and he came out with a watered down version, which is Think and Grow Rich, that came out in 1913. It's either 1913 or 1912. And then that had a lot of phenomenal secrets in it. So that was pulled off the market again and they came out with an even more watered down version. You don't want that. You want the I don't know if it's 1912 or 1913. That's the version that you want. It's about this thick. All right. So I don't want this video, to go on any longer than it already has. As I make more videos, as we progress through this Words of Wisdom series, I'll be sharing more phenomenal, powerful books with you. But those 2 books right there, actually 3, because I gave you Law of Success in 16 Lessons by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. Those 3 books are more than enough to get you started right now. So start to get in the habit of reading daily. I don't care if you have to just start with reading 1 page a day. That's more than enough to get you started. And just keep building up from there, because I promise you, as you begin to get in this habit, as you begin to read these types of books, your mind is going to open up and you're going to want more information about this phenomenal information on how the universe works, how the mind works. All right. So we'll leave it right there. If you like this video, like it, share it with your friends, leave me some comments, leave me some questions, and I look forward to shooting the next video and sharing it with you in the next few days or so. Hey, my name is Rob Moore, reminding you to show up, step out, and shine. Now is your time, so make it shine. Thank you very much and have a fantastic day.